Hello again. Welcome back. My name is Sherry Marks, and I'm the pastor of the First Christian Church, known as the Church of the Open Door in Ukiah, California. You are welcome. We're delighted to have you join us today. If you're not return visitor here, then I would like to remind you that explain to you that we do have a brief communion service after my message, and everybody is welcome to partake in that service. And if you would like to partake in it, you can put us on hold for a minute and go get a cracker, a cookie, something, a cup of coffee, a glass of juice, something to drink, and have them with you so that when we reach that part in our service, you can partake along with the rest of us. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Holy One, as we are entering the busy season of the holidays, we ask you to remind us to take time to be silent, to go inward, to spend time hearing you. We thank you for calling us together here today. We thank you for giving us your word to share. Thank you. Amen. The reading for today comes from Matthew's Gospel, and it's Jesus reminding the disciples of something that happened long before. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come into your life. Today is the first Sunday in Advent, the first Sunday in this new liturgical year, and the theme for today is hope. This is such an important time for us, being that it lays the foundation for all that is to follow in the church year, that it sometimes feels as if we are being bombarded with information, with ideas, and then of course there is the secular world which is at us constantly. It is difficult to find a moment of stillness. But let us spend today and think about hope. So as most of us know by now, there are 4 weeks in Advent, each with its own theme: hope, peace, joy, excuse me, and love. Because Advent is all about the coming of the Christ child into our human world, it can begin to feel as if these are very important, very weighty topics that belong in the Bible and the church and should only be spoken of with churchy words. Well, yes, of course they are important, and we do take them seriously. But they are supposed to tell us about God living and being and acting in our world, right here in the confusion and the messiness of humankind. So occasionally they need to come out of the heavenly realms and interact with us here, just here. That's why I want to share something that a friend shared online this week. It's just a story. I have no idea who originally told this story. I could never find an attribution for it. Actually, it's a story about a story. Somewhere in the 1930s, in the depths of the Great Depression, a man named Bob May was at least one of the more fortunate ones of that time, in that he was employed when so many others were not. He worked for Montgomery Ward, but even though he had a job, most of his slight income went to pay for medical care for his wife, who was dying of cancer. While he worked and cared as best he could for his wife, he was also left to be the sole caregiver for his 4-year-old daughter. Broke and often exhausted and heartbroken as he was, he still wanted to give the very best that he could manage to his little girl. He loved her so much that he somehow found it in him to want to give her hope, even though he most likely went through times when he didn't have much of that for himself at this point. So one evening, as he was putting her to bed, when she asked for a story, having no money for storybooks for her, he made up a story about a small reindeer with a bright red nose, who most unexpectedly found himself working with Santa Claus. The child loved the story so that she asked for it over and over and over again. And so he told the same story night after night. And as he repeated it, he began embroidering it, adding a little here and a little there. And the story grew. Since there was no money for buying Christmas gifts, the man decided to make a handmade book of the story for his daughter as a Christmas gift for her. He even shared it with a few of his co-workers. Sadly, shortly before Christmas that year, the long-suffering wife and mother passed away from her illness. Truly alone now, except for his child and for his work, May reluctantly attended his company's Christmas party, where he was urged by friends to share his story, which met with party-wide acclaim, so much so that Montgomery Ward bought the rights to the story, which enabled the man to pay off the huge debts that had piled up due to his wife's illness. Over the next 6 years, Ward's gave away more than 6 million copies of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer to shoppers. It became so popular that major publishing houses were bidding for the publishing rights. It was a major public relations move for the store when they gave the books away, and in the most extraordinary part of this story, they freely returned the publishing rights to May at no charge. Only someone in publishing today, I think, would understand just how extraordinary that move was. Because in a handful of years, the bereft father became a millionaire in the Depression. But there's more. Mays's brother-in-law was a budding songwriter named Johnny Marks, who later set the story to music. The song was pitched to such big names as Bing Crosby, but no one seemed interested in recording it until Gene Autry, who was likewise not interested at first, but his wife heard the story and heard the song, and announced to him, apparently, that yes, he should record it, because she loved it. And she loved the line about the little reindeer who had been shut out of other games when he was young, and still went on and triumphed. The story of the plucky little reindeer who didn't give up on hope has become an inseparable part of Christmas for children and for families everywhere. Now, this is not a story from the Bible. Jesus and Mary and Joseph don't appear in it anywhere, at least by name. There are no choirs of angels that we can see or hear. And yet, it may be the perfect story for this first week of Advent, this week of hope. A perfect story to show us how hope works in this world where we still live today. Somehow, in the midst of a worldwide financial depression, with the loss of someone as dear as a young child's mother, when everything looks pretty darn hopeless, hope is still here. Excuse me. God is still here in our midst with a promise that God is always here with us in grief, in worry, in failure, in fear. We can hold to hope because somehow God is always right where we are. It doesn't require all the same items, all the same settings as a Bible story does. What it requires is a time filled pretty full with despair, where people keep on going because they truly believe. They believe in God's promise that God's hope is with us always, that there is hope for us and with us in all situations. Hope doesn't come when we decide it should come. Like the people in our opening scripture, we must be ready all the time, because we never know when hope will be needed. We never know when hope will show up. It just appears when God appears. So be ready. Hope can break into our lives when it's the least expected. Hope can show up anywhere, anytime, because God is with us anywhere, anytime. I apologize for my scratchy throat here today. Hope. Hope is a wonderful word, and it's a wonderful sounding word. Sometimes we have trouble hearing how beautiful that word is, because sometimes we're mired pretty deep in hopelessness, and yet that word is always there in all its promise. And that word is for us. Just as Jesus came into a hopeless world as God's gift of hope for the people then, so hope brings us gifts we can't even imagine. We may ask for some things and think that they don't come, but they may come in forms totally unexpected. One of those unexpected forms is this meal here before me. This meal that Jesus once shared with his followers and his friends, those he loved, on a very hopeless appearing night. A night when he would be taken out and arrested and beaten and nailed to a cross on the next day. A night and a day when hope seemed impossible to find. And yet our greatest promise of hope, our greatest answer to hopelessness came from this meal. Because Jesus was the host at that table. And so he was the one who was leading the prayers and handing the food out at the proper time and following the semi-ritual that was involved in this meal. And yet at one point, he took the bread, he raised it up, he offered it to the one that he called Father, and then he broke it and he said, "This bread is my body. This is me given for you, that your wounds may be healed, that your fears may be assuaged, that you may know I am with you always. So take this bread," he said. "Take it and eat it and share it with each other, and know that I am with you for all time." And then he took the cup and he raised it also to the one he called Father. And he blessed it. And then he said to them, "This cup, this is my life. This is my blood. This is my heart given and poured out for you. Take this cup then, share it with each other, drink it, and know that as this wine becomes part of you, so I am part of you forever." And so time after time after time, for 2,000 or so years, followers have been gathering in this place, in this meal, wherever it's taking place. We have gathered, and we have broken the bread, and we have shared the cup, and we know that Jesus is with us. This is the hope we carry within us always, and it cannot be taken from us. So eat the bread, drink the cup, and give thanks for the hope given. And everyone is welcome here. Thank you, Blessed One, for giving yourself so freely to us all. How could we have hope without you and without your promise? So, take what you have been given today, given in word, given in bread and cup. Take what you have found in the company of others. Share all of that with others. Carry it with you out into the world. And go into the world to love and to serve. Thanks be to God.
Founded